Hi, I'm Mateusz from Board Game Colors, and today I'm gonna show you how to approach painting Menhirs from Tainted Grail. I decided to make a change for this channel. From today, I'm Mateusz from Randomly Generated Colors. If you want to jump straight to the proper tutorial, please skip ahead. I'm adding a timeline for every video, so it should be easy enough. Okay, so now when we are all alone, let me tell you a few things. I started this channel on a whim, because I just want to teach people how to paint minis. There are ups and downs at the end of this year and I needed some time to think about this channel. But now I'm here with some new ideas. First of all, this video is part of my charity project. Every year I'm painting minis from the board game and giving it away for a charity auction for a great orchestra of Christmas charity. This year I painted Tainted Grail with the help of some friends. If you're interested, you'll find details in the description. Secondly, I'm starting a new series of tutorials for Etherfields. I'll start with an episode 0, where I'll tell you what paints and tools I use, and how you can pick substitutes, how to prepare minis for painting, and what are some basic techniques. After that, I'm going to continue a series for all the different minis. Thirdly, this channel is here because it's fun for me. And part of its fun is making videos about bases, dioramas and some projects that won't be tutorials. I hope you will enjoy them as much as I do. Oh, and I changed the name of the channel, and all the social media. Board Game Colors was just a simple transition from Polish barwy gier and didn't sound right to me. I asked some friends for some inspiration and we came with randomly generated colors, which suits my style way better. Now back to Tainted Grail. I didn't think I will make this video, but a few of you wrote to me and asked if I can make a tutorial for it. And an occasion arose with my charity auction. So without further ado, let me show you how to paint Menhir with glowing candles. Do you remember my Nemesis Intruders painting video? You will find some similarities here. First we have to prepare a good base coat that we will use later to produce appropriate lights and shadows on our miniature. I started with an overall coat of very dark grey spray paint. I'm making sure that this coat is very even and that it penetrates every crevice and hole. On the other hand, I'm avoiding spraying too much, cause I don't want any streaks. Don't be rash, you can always make another coat before you move on. Also, let it dry for at least a few minutes. Second coat was a simple grey spray, but you can skip it if you want. It created only a subtle change. I used it to spray a menhir from the top, at the degree of about 45 degrees from the vertical. With this step I wanted to get smoother transition in the shadows. Lastly, I sprayed a mini from the top with a white spray. I'm doing all this base coating because I will paint the body of the menhir mostly with transparent paints, so the undercoat will be still visible. Now I want to increase the contrast even further. Knowing that I want to paint strong orange light from candles, I'm going to use very dark violet to paint all the deepest shadows. If you don't own this kind of color, don't worry, you can also use some dark blue or simply black. I'm using violet cause it's a complementary color to the yellow, so it will even increase the contrast of the mini with all those candles. I wasn't precise with shadows, so now I want to clean up a little. I'm using mid-lightness gray to dry brush around shadows that are too big. One important thing here is that I'm avoiding all the parts that are close to the light sources or are at the top of the figure. Now I'm going to add some different tones to the figure using a light beige color. Also, I'm using the dry brushing technique, but this time trying to hit a figure where I feel it will be lighter. Also, it is super important here to move your brush from the source of light, in example candles. This way, the hair of the brush will only touch surfaces that are facing the light, and leave darker color where the shadow will be created. You may also want to do it one more time closer to the light source. I also feel that the menhir is hit by the moonlight, which reflects cold light, so this beige won't work. So now I'm using a cold white color to dry brush a mini from the top. It is essential that your brush is really dry, so whip it on a tissue a little more than usual. Okay, now we are getting to a tricky part. I'm going to prepare some washes from acrylic inks, but if you don't own them yourself, don't worry. I'll give you some tips on how to create something similar from standard paints. You can also use washes sold by Citadel or Vallejo if you want, but I simply like something more saturated. I'm going to make 4 washes here. I will use the following inks: red, sap green, carbon black, Payne's grey, and sepia. The first 3 are easy to replace. Just find some paints with similar colors. To get Payne's grey, you can mix dark blue with black. And to get sepia, mix yellowy brown, in example Zamesi Desert from Citadel, with black. I prepared small containers and added a lot of AK Interactive Ultra Matte Varnish and few drops of glazing medium. The first one is to reduce ink's glossiness. Second is to help the paint flow on the mini. If you are just using paints, you can change a varnish for water or some other medium if you like. I also added a few drops of ink for each container. First from the top is just black. Second is sepia. Third is sap green. And last is a mix of Payne's grey and red. This one I mixed, adding more and more red and testing it out until I got dark violet. Proportions are about 10 drops varnish to 1 drop ink, but I didn't stress about it too much. Just mix it and test out its opacity, just like I did on my wet palette here. The rule of thumb is that if you want a lighter mini, you want less opacity, so more water or mediums. I'm going for a dark look here. As for washes application, my base was black, so I started applying it from the top. On some up-facing parts I added green wash to simulate some moss on the stone. On the bone wings and near lights, I added sepia, cause I wanted them in warm colors. In the deepest crevices, I added violet. The trick here is to work with washes still wet on the Mini, so they will mix together and won't leave obvious borders between colors. When it was dry, I mixed some grey with a little blue and dry brushed with just a tiny bit of paint on the brush on the top facing parts to add some more contrast. Also, I repeated a step where I dry brushed areas around candles with beige. Just remember to move your brush from the light source. This part is crucial, because we are going to use very light paints at the moment, and if painted on a dark, almost black background, they will end up dull and desaturated. Now, if you like, you can paint shadows near a light to increase contrast. In my case, I use dark violet. I painted inside the cracks, side of the vines back facing from the light, and other areas I felt needed it. Now to the proper light. We will use red, orange and yellow. The stronger and more saturated paints you find for it, the better. I'm starting with an orange and painting all the bright areas around the candles and candles themselves. I'm leaving the areas that are a little darker. How far you get with the lit area is obviously your choice. I went really far, cause I imagined my menhir in the night. Next I mixed orange with yellow and painted areas closer to the candle, taking special care of the sharp edges. Following that, I mixed orange with red and painted areas that were farthest. Lastly, I used pure yellow to paint the flames and parts that were almost touching them. I worked back and forth with those colors until I liked the effect. The trick here is to know that the edges reflect the most light to the viewer, so they should be the brightest. Also, surfaces that are facing the light source get more light than those that are angled to it. So when you're working with the lighter colors, just pick up those elements. The second trick you need to know is that this technique is possible only because of contrast. If you want a light source to stand out, you need a dark background. Think of it like this. Imagine a candle. If you light it up in a daylight, it will simply have almost no effect on the surroundings. but if you light it in the night, it will reach every corner of the room. Okay, now you can proceed with some other details on the mini. Paint the vines, ribbons, bones, crystals and all other things the way you want. But don't make it too light, so it won't steal attention from the candles. You also might want to finish up with a matte varnish, cause a glossy finish destroys the light effect. Okay, so here is my finished menhir. I'm happy with the object source light effect. Also, violet ribbons near the chalice add some magical atmosphere and more contrast. If you fancy lighter menhirs, I also painted them about a year ago for a friend. OSL is not as profound, but still very atmospheric in my opinion. Finally, I told you that this video is part of my charity auction. With help of some painters, I painted a whole base set of the game, each figure with a little different style. You can find details of the auction and social media addresses of the artists in the description. I strongly recommend checking their social media, they have some awesome works there. Some of them also take commissions if you are interested. Now this is the end of this episode. In the next one I'm going to start my Etherfields series, so stay tuned and subscribe if you don't want to miss it. With that being said, thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye.